All right, welcome in, everybody. It's Friday. It's time for Full Court Press. Rob Bino, I can't believe that Campbell and William and Mary both essentially got to the mid 80s and didn't go over that total. It stays under by a half a point. Otherwise, we were it cost us our parlay, and I'm watching that game, and I'm like, oh, this is definitely going to get over. And it got kind of tight at the end there. 84-83 final. Lands 167, and I think we had 168 in the parlay, which was, disappointing. But again, I think that game, final 5-6 minutes, I think 7-8 times out of 10, that's probably finding its way over one way or another. Could have had overtime, so a little bit unlucky on that. Outside of that, how did your night go?
It ended up being a split because as unlucky as the last, let's say, 4.5, 5 minutes were in William and Mary and Campbell, I lucked out by half a point in Portland State, Idaho. I had over 143.5. They landed 144. And that game kind of rallied at the end to get over the total, where William and Mary and Campbell were on pace, very much so on pace mathematically with 5 minutes left, and kind of stalled out and didn't get there. So we'll take the 1-1. The split didn't cost us hardly anything last night, but would have been nice to get William and Mary and Campbell there. Like I say, they were on course to get there with about five left, and then you started to see a little bit of, missed shots, a couple of free throws here and there. They all count in the end, right, Adam? You look back to the first half and say, man, why didn't that layup go? We'd have been there. But we'll take it. I still think it was the right handicap. But the Cal Poly was never in doubt. I mean, that first score was 10-0 right out of the chute. And I'm like, man, it's like 22-0 already. We're in pretty good shape here.
I don't think Cal Poly ever trailed in the game with Hawaii last night. Hawaii made a couple of runs to tie it. I don't think Hawaii ever led that game. Yeah, really good performance from Cal Poly. I had a good night, 3-1. I lost a game. I won a game in almost the same fashion that I lost it. I got a nice comeback. I guess myself and Brian Power willed Little Rock across the finish line in a kind of stole one at the end. And then the gambling god said, no, you're going to give that back with UC Santa Barbara. They looked like they were going to go to the free throw line to close out the win and probably cover 3.5. And Rob, suddenly they find themselves in OT. They turn the ball over out of a inbound play. They end up in overtime, and they lose to a red hot Cal State Northridge team who just keeps finding ways to win. I also had Cal Poly, and then Tennessee State pulled away. So I'm 10-1 in my last 11. Like I said, I'm over here making up for lost time. Rob was on fire November, December when I couldn't cash one. So I'm just making up for lost time over here. Hopefully the two of us can continue to cash tickets for you. And it is officially the weekend, Rob, even though in my cup here is just water. But it is officially the weekend. I already finished the energy drink. We're still on Peach Mango Bang. It's been the same thing all week. But if you go to WagerTalk.com, you will find that we have the Double the Firepower CBB package. And regardless of who it's been, I think we've been pretty successful over the past few weeks, month. We started the week with a 6-0 Monday. And that would get you all of my plays, all of Rob's plays for the entire weekend. Huge slate of games on Saturday. But a pretty intriguing slate tonight. There's I love, like, every once in a while I'll pop into like a competitor's show and I'll hear something like, well, not much not much on the slate today, or it's a small slate. First of all, this is a great slate. I heard one yesterday like, this is there's really nothing on this, like basically almost like slandering the mid-major Thursday board. And it's like, what else do you want as a bettor? That's where a lot of your edges are going to be. And I think that's the case tonight because outside of the couple big games, we've got the MAC in play, there's the Ivy League, and that's what we're going to get going here. But we will start with what I consider to be the biggest game tonight, and that is a big-time matchup in the Atlantic 10. St. Louis, VCU. We have now is essentially a battle for first place. So St. Louis kind of did the unthinkable earlier in the week. I know there was people that were like, Rhode Island, like that's a tough spot for them on the road at Rhode Island. Rob, I got to be honest, that was shocking to me. I don't think that Rhode Island team is any good. I don't think there's even with their sort of bigger crowd, one of the biggest crowds they've had in a while. I don't know that the Ryan Center has much atmosphere. And St. Louis got beat. I mean, they just got beat in that game. And I started to think, okay, so I went to the St. Louis Dayton game. That was almost a month ago at this point. St. Louis played as lights out of a game as they could have played against Dayton on Friday night on this court, which is where this game will be tonight. Do you think they started to play with their food a little bit, for lack of a better sort of term, against some of these really, really bad Atlantic 10 teams? Because make no mistake about it, the bottom of the A10 right now, the Loyola Chicagos, the LaSalles, are bad basketball teams. And do you think they got lulled to sleep almost by a Rhode Island team that maybe is a little bit better and just took advantage of an opportunity, with maybe St. Louis looking ahead to this game a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to throw the numbers out the window for this handicap, Adam. I mean, generally, I'll come on here and try and find matchup analytic edges in the game, but it really doesn't matter what I think about whether or not St. Louis was playing with their food, so to speak. But it does matter what the players and the coach think, and I'm going to tell you that they were, because here we go. Dion Brown, after that loss to Rhode Island, St. Louis guard, for those who don't know, Dion Brown came out and said, I think it's a bit of complacency. We think we're a good team, and Tuesday showed that we're not as good as we thought. We came out of that, when we come out of that mindset, hey, we're going to win this game, it takes away from our preparation. He's telling you that, you know what, they thought they were too good for the league and they could just roll the balls out. But it continues, because head coach Josh Schertz said the same thing. It's hard when you win 18 games in a row to maybe maintain the humility and hunger it takes to play your best. Maybe this is what we needed to reset ourselves and get back to the team we've been most of the season. Read into it, whatever you want to read into it. I think that Schertz, who continued on to say, I should add right here, Adam, what he continued on to say was, we've been playing with fire the last 3 or 4 games in terms of our execution, physicality, and competitiveness. The things that were our superpowers have been our effort and toughness and our execution and our connectedness. Now, you make the decision to yourself, does St. Louis take that loss and come out breathing fire here in this game? Or are they in a lull right now where VCU is going the other direction and maybe can take advantage of? Head coach Martelli actually thinks that his team is in way better shape. I don't know that I can argue with him. The only thing I could argue with Martelli with, and he basically focuses, Adam, on their defense. He says our defense is way better than it was the first time we played St. Louis. Took some time to get used to the system, to get used to each other, but we're way better now. I would say that you can take that seriously because the coach said it, but the competition at the A10 level is not all St. Louis, right? So you're beating a bunch of teams, you're playing good defense against a bunch of teams, but they're not St. Louis, and they're not a fired up St. Louis on their home floor. So this is a test and a half for VCU. I think you could make a really good situational case either way. My case to be made would be St. Louis. I think that they'll bounce back here. I just think that they're the better team. I think they're still, even though VCU is playing better defense, I think St. Louis is the better defense. And the one thing that VCU doesn't do still, Adam, for the most part, like they did in the past, is force turnovers. Like if you're going to beat St. Louis, take some possessions away from them. Don't let them, because they're such a good shooting team. You really don't want them to take shots. You were in this building a couple of Fridays ago. You know what it's like when they're fired up to play a game, which they should be tonight. So the line did budge early on, and it's been bet back. VCU money has come in within the last hour and a half. For me, I'd probably look at St. Louis here. This total is interesting. 161.5 up to 163.5. And a couple of teams that I think will be focused on the defensive end. First time around was 71-62. St. Louis got the win at VCU. VCU didn't shoot it well. They may not shoot it well again here. And I'll add this at the end. I do worry about VCU if, in fact, there's a stretch where St. Louis goes on a home floor run. Let's say a 10-0, 12-2 run. And is VCU good enough shooting-wise to get back in the game at that point, especially if St. Louis is motivated tonight? So for me, I'll go with Coach Schertz, who said maybe that loss was a good thing. I don't know that I want to lay 7.5 because VCU's on an ascension right now. But if I had to, that's the way I'd look.
Yeah, I have a lot of conflicting thoughts here, so I'm just going to get them out and see if we can talk ourselves into some sort of pick. First of all, Ski knows the deal. He knows you're going to come with quotes for a big game.
He does.
So yeah, he knows you're bringing a coach quote for a big game. And yes, I saw Shirts say that as well. I actually was in the press conference after the Dayton game where Shirts, came and addressed the media. I never go to these, by the way. Like, even if I get credentials, usually I'm like hitting the road trying to get to wherever my next game is. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm media, I guess, but I always feel a little bit weird in the press conference because it's like, I'm not like writing a piece on it. But I went to that one because I knew some folks there. And that was, I mean, if you remember after that game, Shirts is at the bar pouring shots. St. Louis played as good as they've played. Maybe also that may have been their best game from a just complete. They did everything right for 40 minutes. Dayton never had a chance. Bayou's in the chat saying, this is going to be kind of a tough building, tough atmosphere. Yeah, he's probably right about that because I was out waiting to get in Chaffetz Arena at 5:30, and there was a line of students around the building. And the guy I was standing next to, who I think was just a season ticket holder, turned to me and he's like, I've never seen kids line up at this time for a game, right? That was like totally new to them to have this like full student section selling out the 10,600 seat arena, which is, it's a great arena for basketball. But listen, if St. Louis isn't playing good, they're not selling that place out. That was a sellout. This will be a sellout. This is 1 versus 2 in the league. Now, Rob, I love rematches for us because we watch a lot of ball. If you want to figure out who's watching these games and who's not, just listen to how people talk about some of these rematches. Okay. This game we actually gave out on this show. We took St. Louis in the first meeting. I think it was my parlay leg. It was a client play for me. That game didn't get close until the end. St. Louis was rolling in that game. And a big reason for that was VCU couldn't get good shots off. And the good shots they were getting were 3-pointers, and they just weren't falling. They basically tried to take everything to the rim. And then as soon as there was resistance, they'd kick it for a 3, and they just didn't make any of them. 6 for 24 from 3 in that game. Now, one thing you could say is, well, that's good defense for St. Louis, and that's true. The other thing you could say is, that's a different game if the shots are going in, right? Like if VCU hits a couple of threes early, it may unlock. I felt like St. Louis was able to just kind of pack it in and almost baited them in the shooting of 3. As soon as VCU made a couple of those, I think they cut it to like almost like 1. They made a run, they got back in it, and then St. Louis closed the game out. So comes to this, we flip the tables. Now we're at St. Louis. Now we're talking about covering a 7.5 point spread. It's tough because I think if some of those threes go in, you're probably looking at a little bit of a different game. But I will go back to what you were kind of mentioning. It does feel like this could be a knockout punch game. If St. Louis comes out, and they've been very good off a loss. Now they only lost. This will only be the second time, but they've also been pretty good off of not playing their best ball. If you go back to the Dayton game, I think they went maybe on the road to George Washington heading into that game, didn't have a great game, came out and played a very efficient game at home. If St. Louis plays an efficient game at home, they're going to win this game. They're probably going to cover. But that number makes it difficult to bet. So what you could do, again, maybe you go St. Louis first half. I want to say you recommended that for the Dayton game potentially because like it was a big spread at home. We didn't really want to lay the number, and it was like, and they came out and they were just lights out right off the rip. They were up 15 in like 2 seconds. So if you like St. Louis, maybe do the first half, second half thing where you play half unit on the first half. If you win, you take your money. If you lose, you come over the top in the second half. Because I would be kind of surprised if St. Louis just no-shows this game after losing to Rhode Island. But, Rob, we have seen some of these teams that have these big-time losing streaks lose one and then lose that game twice. So, intriguing game. I just don't see how to get involved here.
Yeah, a couple things really quick here. For St. Louis, because their non-conference resume is not stacked, right? The best wins are basically wins over Grand Canyon early on and Santa Clara by 1. St. Louis doesn't have a lot here. Net ranking is nice, but they have to continue to resume build because they are who they are. I just go back to what Jared Calhoun, head coach of Utah State, said a couple of games ago. Like, these teams have to win. They have to win by margin. A game like this on national TV, you can't flop. If, in fact, you don't win the Atlantic 10 tournament and you're St. Louis, you can still probably get an at-large. A loss here, Adam, I think could actually put St. Louis's at-large in jeopardy because of the weakness of this. The only thing holding this conference afloat as far as ranking is concerned is St. Louis. If St. Louis wasn't in this league, it would be like the 18th or 19th best league in the country. So they really, it's of the utmost importance to them. And to your point about first half betting, St. Louis has come multiple occasions here with that immediate knockout punch. I think was it St. Bonaventure you referred to, where your friends were at the bar before the game even started?
They were at the bar at halftime. They thought they were. I was getting text St. Bonnie's money line, and then I was getting texts from the bar early second half. It was a 30-point game.
Yeah, they've got that ability to get out quick. And if ECU is overwhelmed early, then first half could be a really good way to go. But I think I trust a little bit of St. Louis here in this game to do the right thing off of that loss.
First of all, thank you for the donation, Manzi Man. And yeah, we've wondered where you were, and this is a bit of sad news, but he says, morning, fellas, been away a little bit and didn't want to put a damper, but found out my wife has breast cancer. Say a prayer. Thank you. Well, we're absolutely going to keep your wife in our thoughts and prayers. I've had multiple family members affected with breast cancer. It's a terrible thing. And we'll be thinking about you all weekend. We appreciate you popping into the show on a daily basis. Appreciate you donating to the show. And you know what? I'll talk to we always look for I don't know where we're donating the donations this month, but it seems like this would be the month to donate them to breast cancer. So maybe we can talk to the powers that be about that. But I do believe this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, is it not, Rob? Right? Isn't this? I've seen some teams wearing pink jerseys.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
So yeah, we're absolutely thinking about you. Sorry to hear that, and we hope she beats it, pulls through, because again, a lot of people do beat that, and I've also had family members that have beaten breast cancer. So let's we'll say a thought and prayer for you. Let's go to Garth. I can't believe you brought this game up, but we will talk about it. So there is if you are not following this Twitter account, do yourself a favor and go follow I got to make sure I say it right, the Teams Left tracker. His handle is Champ Countdown. And every year, as teams get mathematically eliminated from being in the NCAA tournament, he counts all 365 teams down. So that's literally all this account does, is as soon as a team is eliminated from, basically gets knocked out of their conference tournament, or until they mathematically can't make their conference tournament, he counts them down 365 to 1. It's like a great little niche Twitter account. It's just worth a follow. I think it's great. And the reason I bring his account up right now is on Sunday, Rob, we had a double elimination from contention for the NCAA tournament, and that was these two teams, Rider and Canisius. Both lost, Rider lost over the weekend, as did Canisius. And what that meant is that both are now ineligible for the MAC tournament. So the MAC is not bringing everyone to the conference tournament anymore. And Canisius and Rider now both will not be going to Atlantic City. So that brings us to today's game. Canisius at Rider, a literal meaningless game because neither of these teams will be going to Atlantic City to play in the MAC tournament. And so Garth says, let's talk about the real MAC, the MAAC, which will be the MAC no more in a couple months. Because they have already announced that going into the next season, they will have a new name. We will have a new name for the MAC conference. But Canisius Rider, he says Canisius team total under 66.5. Game under this number. Went under this number in 8 of the last 10, but I don't know if Rider can stop them. Well, this is like, Rob, how do you even really this is either going to be a terrible game that goes under, or it's going to be playground basketball because no one cares and who even knows. Like, how do you attack a game with as little meaning as Canisius Ryder tonight?
It's a great question, Adam. I don't know that we have any evergreen videos in the vault with that subject matter. How do you attack a game like this? To Garth's point, real quick, he went at it from one side with the 8 out of 10, and I will say that Ryder has allowed less than 66.5 one time in 16 conference games. So the other 15 times their opponent got above 66.5. So just if that helps out any, the last time Canisius won a game, this really bothers me. The last time Canisius won a game,
it's going to bother me too, big time, Rob. But finish your point, because
we came on a Friday way back in early January, and I used Manhattan, talking about the road trips from for Canisius and Niagara, how difficult they are to go on the road. Manhattan, I think, was off a loss, and I played Manhattan, laid a few points, maybe 6 points, got beat outright by Canisius. They haven't won a game since. They've been as bad, if not worse, than Ryder. I don't know if Ryder's last win was the day you were in the gym, but I remember it.
I think they pulled an upset. I think they won one more since, where they hit like a runner at the buzzer. I think it was St. Peter's. But yeah, they've only won, I think, 2 Division I games this year, maybe.
Yeah, that was like Iona that you were there, right? And somehow, some way, yes. Ryder won. And actually, I can remember talking with you, and we thought, well, maybe Ryder could be on a little bit of an upswing. Economically poor Ryder is now going to start playing good ball. They did win one more game, but they've been terrible ever since. And it's just hard, like you say, when you have no meaning to games. You have to get inside the head coaches' heads, I think. It would be nice to talk to both head coaches here and just see where they're at with this. Is it, you know what, we're not going to the MAC tournament. These games are meaningless. Roll out the balls. Or is it, this is a winnable game for both of us. Let's go try and beat somebody. Put the kids' mindset in a positive position. Boy, it's hard, Adam. I would think that they're still trying to win games at this point. To Garth's point, holding Canisius to less than 66.5 it's been a problem for Ryder to hold anybody under 67 all season long. I don't know why it wouldn't continue to be a problem tonight, other than Canisius can't score either, but somebody's got to put the ball in the hoop. So I'm not going to argue with you on this one, Garth, because this one is really a difficult call. So we'll hope that you cash this ticket with Canisius up and over 66.5.
So he actually likes the under, but I'm gonna take a stand here. Yeah, he likes the under. I'm gonna take a stand here. I like Ryder. I think Ryder wins this game. It's a meaningless game, but I've got a sense of the vibes of both programs. Like, Kevin Badgett seems like an incredibly nice, positive guy. Has literally paid employees out of his own pocket just so they could keep their jobs, to keep the program going. He wants to do, he's been there forever. I think his first year as head coach was maybe the Jason Thompson senior year, maybe right after that. I think right after the Jason Thompson years, he took over. He's been the head coach ever since. They were so happy to win that Iona game when I was there that I just would be really surprised if they're coming into a home game not just motivated to go out and try their best to win the game. Canisius over the weekend could have won both of those games. They came back. They were tied with Iona with 2 minutes left, took a 3 that rimmed out, and managed to not only lose the game, but not cover 5.5. So they had the ball. They had the ball with 2 minutes to go, plus 5.5. Took a 3 that hit iron, hit backboard, rimmed out, and then lost the game by 6. Great. I was on Canisius plus 5.5. On Sunday, they were up 5 with 5 minutes to go against Manhattan, managed to lose that game. Jim Christian looks miserable, pissed off. I think he kicked Marcus Niblack off the team. Basically was just you just don't act like he straight up came out. You want to talk about quotes, little Mac quote here. It wasn't even like one of those PR type quotes. He was just he just does not do what we expect a student athlete to do. So he's gone. Like, I kind of think Canisius is a disaster right now. Now they got to go all the way down to Jersey to play meaningless games, Central New Jersey. I mean, listen, nothing would surprise me here, but my numbers like Ryder, and I think the situation is good for a Ryder victory. Like, I'm pretty comfortable saying I like Ryder pick. I think I have to redo. I have to just double check my calculation. I think I'm at like 3.5 Ryder. So again, bad basketball team, meaningless game. I wouldn't touch Canisius. It's a terrible spot for the Griffs. All right. All right, Rob, let's stay in the MAC. I've invited BP to join the parlay and see if he can finish off a perfect week. He filled in on Monday, and he's hit his parlay leg every day. So I said, BP, you got to I was like, you got to try to run the table, try to go 5-0. He's like, Trig, you may like this, you may not, but I like your Siena Saints tonight. And I said, all right. He goes, he's like, I don't even know if we're going to talk about it on Morning Wager because we're doing some NBA stuff today. I said, don't worry. I said, I will lay out what I think is going to happen in this game. I'll give your pick out, and I'll let Rob, sort of agree or disagree with me because I can't really pick a side here. Okay. And the reason is, so Brian Power is going to come into the parlay with Siena plus 3.5. That is what he wants on the parlay. And I see merit to both sides. I think the number is spot on. So you want to talk about, Rob, I think you're going to hear people try to talk about this game today. And they're going to be like, oh, it was a close game. First game was tight, close game, whatever. This is what I'm talking about. If you watch the first game, you would know that Siena was down 19, that they were getting blown out of their own arena in front of like 6,000 at MVP Arena on a Friday night, getting embarrassed, down 16 at half. And essentially, Siena kind of got a few stops, and they kind of like snuck back into the game. They started to press a little bit, got a rebound or two, and suddenly kind of snuck back into the game, though, to the point where Gavin Doty went to the foul line, fouled on a 3, down 3. Like, he had a chance to tie that game at the end, and he missed the free throw. Siena ends up losing 63-59. The problem here for Siena is Joe Gallo is going to play a zone that Siena has a very, very difficult time beating. Why does Siena have a difficult time beating the zone? They really don't have three-point shooters this year. And their one three-point shooter, Brendan Coyle, is having a bad season. He's just not himself. If this was Brendan Coyle from 2 years ago, you'd probably be fine. But Brendan Coyle right now is just not consistent enough from 3. Rob, in the first meeting, Siena, not only could they not make a 3, they couldn't even get one off. I mean, Merrimack wasn't like, they couldn't even get a good look. They were 4 for 16 from 3 in that game. And Siena this year is 336 nationally from 3. Now, why might Siena stay in this game? What could help Brian Powers' cause here on Siena plus 3.5? They defend well and they have size. And one thing Merrimack does not do well is rebound the basketball, but it's also because they play this zone. It's very random. And Gallo prioritizes being near the rim more. He almost would rather cut off. He'd almost rather dig in on defense and play out the second possession than like get all out of sorts going for a rebound and give up like an easy putback. So Siena's going to win the rebounding edge. They did in the first meeting, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have an easy shot. That Merrimack will just dig back in on their zone. So Siena can play defense. They can get stops. They could steal a game that's similar to the first game in the low 60s. If it's not in the low 60s, I'd be surprised if they win this game. But Rob, does that talk you into or out of a total by any chance?
The only way to play the total for me would be under. It sets up to me the same as, we've talked a lot about this, Adam. Second meeting, where certain styles just seem to create the same exact type of game. For the most part, when we talked about it yesterday, Campbell and William and Mary played out that way. It was the same exact game, just missed the total. Priced a little bit too high for us to get there. But where Merrimack's really good defensively, when you go through numbers, they're number 8 in the country in second chance points allowed. So Siena with size, it's going to be difficult because you don't get a lot of second chance points against these guys. Merrimack, as far as fast break points allowed, inside the top 10 as well. So the transition defense is really good. So you got to make shots. And to your point, first time around, and Gavin Doty, not only with the free throws, but as I comb through the box score, was a bad day overall for him.
Well, can I
From
can I
2-point
can I tell you why that is and why it might be again? Gavin Doty's not really he's not really a confident three-point shooter. Gavin Doty wants to put his head down, take you off the dribble, work his way into the paint, maybe get something mid-range, get to the hoop, and Merrimack just does not let you do that. They just don't.
Yeah. 2 of 10 indicates in that game, Gavin Doty was that going to the rim for 2-point shots or mid-range shots didn't work there. So it's hard to see unless Siena goes on the road and knocks down a bunch of shots, this total changing any from the 122. You know, in actuality, Adam, the points per possession in that game weren't really bad. 1.16 for Merrimack, 1.09 for Siena. I mean, it's not great, but it's not horrendous either. It's just the lack of possessions and the lack of free throws. Even in a game that ended 63-59, that was close, as you indicated, extension couldn't help this game get beyond 122. So here we're staring at, I think this game's been bet up. Just let me check the number really fast here. This game's been bet up to from 130.5 to 132.5. And I just feel like whoever it is who gets to these things early, when they see numbers in this range, they just feel like, and I can't say that I'm not of the same opinion, that you can get to 130.5 by mistake. So let's just bet it over for the thrill of betting it over. But you're asking this game to go 67-66. And if you use the point spread here, you're actually asking this game to go 69-65 to be 69-64 to be an over. I'm not so sure anybody gets close to 70 here. So for me, I'd probably say under. And of course, we're not going to root against your Siena Saints, and we're not going to go against Brian Power at all. End of story. After Little Rock, the guy who won the game for Little Rock last night was the guy whose name you were trying to pronounce yesterday.
Yeah, Gatkek, just going coast to coast like he's Ed O'Bannon, Rob, to win the game. Like, or Tyus Edney. Tyus Edney was like the famous. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that was incredible. What a finish to that game. I thought, here I am thinking, like, I'm going to need a deuce on the other end to cover 2.5. They get like a steal. He's off to the races, and he scores at the buzzer. Incredible finish. It's kind of, so my buddy Aaron Kidd texted me. I'm on a good run right now. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. You can see, like, and he was like, you could tell me to bet Japan in World War II. He's like, I'm betting it at this point. That's kind of how I feel about BP right now. Who am I to talk Brian Power off the Siena Saints? He's just coming here and giving out nothing but winners. So yeah, I'm not going to push back at that at all. What I will say though, to I guess add some more fuel to the fire on a potential under, that first game, Siena scored 22 points in the first half. Merrimack, just one more number for you. They're 17th nationally in block shots. They contest everything. It's why when they give up a rebound, it's not the end of the world, because Gallo's zone never get out of position. So it's like, if a ball, because again, when you're talking about a zone, rebounding is going to be a little bit random. If you're giving up jumpers, you never know where the ball is going to go. But they do such a good job at staying in their position that they're almost not even like, oh, you got the rebound? No problem. We'll just zone you again for another 20 seconds. Fine, right? And then it's like, Siena got back in that game when they were down. They started to press a little bit. Merrimack got a little out of sorts. But like, if this is a close game, Merrimack doesn't turn the ball over, Kavir Kennedy might win Player of the Year in the MAC. I mean, he's a freshman point guard for Merrimack. He very well may win MAC Player of the Year. I can't understand why that total would be bet up, unless it's like you're saying, people just see a number, say, oh, that's a little low, let me bet it up. Mm-hmm. But I'll be really surprised if this is anything other than, I think you're going to get like your 64-61 type final again in this game. Hard to believe it's anything other than that. God, I'm out of breath here, Rob. We're only halfway into the show. If I didn't, and again, one more time, we'll recap it at the end as we always do. But Brian Power is going for a perfect 5-0 on the show this week with his parlay leg. He is on Siena plus the 3.5, and I do believe it's still there. I haven't looked since we got on the show, but we'll confirm that when we get closer to the end of the show. All right, let's head to the chat. Still a lot more to talk about. Again, Manzi, appreciate the donations, and we'll keep your wife in our thoughts and prayers this weekend. Let's see what else we got. Super chats are starred. Joe Lane says it is 3.5. Yeah, I don't expect that to move. That's exactly what I think it's going to be. worth noting, Siena was a 5.5-point favorite in the first meeting at MVP Arena. Merrimack was a pretty big dog in that meeting. So just you want to talk about where they've come from. I do think the books are really giving the respect to Merrimack that they kind of deserve at this point. And I think that's probably why the number is correct. All right. Let's talk about the final unbeaten, Rob. There's one undefeated team left in college basketball. They play on national TV tonight. And so let's head to the other MAC, the MAC that will be keeping their name after this year. Of course, Brian Powers MAC. And that's the Mid-American Conference. And that's, of course, Miami of Ohio, who has still not lost a basketball game despite everyone thinking this game's the game. That's what everyone said earlier this week. All the sharps loved UMass, Rob. They said this game's the game. I've been hearing it all season, though, in MAC play. And yet here we are, Miami of Ohio continuing to win games. They said it in the first meeting between these two teams, Rob, that Bowling Green was going to be the team to beat them. Miami of Ohio wiped the floor with them at the Stroh Arena. Now they're at home. Millett Hall's probably sold out again tonight. They've been getting 9,000 plus for Miami of Ohio home games. 8.5. But I think you either had the total in the first one or this is the one we got nipped on by like a half point. I'm trying to go off memory, but we might have got nipped on a missed foul shot in this one. I can't remember. Or this one soared over. But you've been pretty good on Miami of Ohio total. So talk to me, Miami of Ohio Bowling Green. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, we had a Miami of Ohio total. I'm trying to remember if it was Bowling Green or not, but Peter Suter went to the line. They actually iced him. It was a 2-shot foul, and he made the first. Other coach iced him. He came back. Of course, the announcer compliments on how good of a free throw shooter he was. Didn't work, and we fell a half a point short because that free throw bricked in that particular game. You just talked about a game where Siena.
I just got it. That was not that. That was not that game. They dropped 93 on Bowling Green in the first meeting, blew them out. But
yeah, and you just talked about Merrimack Siena being a absolute rout at halftime. So was this. Miami O was up 54-28 at halftime of this game in Bowling Green, plus 26 at the half, and kind of came out of the locker room for the second half nonchalant, only scored 9 points in the first 10 minutes of the second half. Bowling Green came back. They beat Miami O 55-39 second half to make it a 10-point deficit, a lot closer than what the game really was if Miami of Ohio had stayed pedal to the floor. After the 9-point first 10 minutes, they kind of woke up and realized, wait a minute, now we have to finish this thing off, and they scored at will. A couple of things here on total. Miami of Ohio team total, 14 games in MAC play, 12-2, over 80 points, which is their number tonight. I think it's 80 and a half, somewhere right in that range. So they need 81. They've done that 12 or 14 times so far this year. So it's not a lot to ask of them to get to that number. Obviously 93 the first time against Bowling Green, and the shooting was sensational in that game for Miami O, both from 2-point range, 3-point range, whatever. Bowling Green had a pretty good second half in that one. Couple of things here that I'll get to where Bowling Green is concerned. If you're thinking of full game total, or if you're thinking of Bowling Green, and Todd Simon had, I think was he former Southern Utah? Todd Simon, he was somewhere out west.
I believe it was Southern Utah for like a year or two, right? And then he got the job pretty quickly.
Yeah, I remember him out west, and he had some fast-paced team out there. But Todd Simon made a comment about his team, his group of main shooters, and called them very, very streaky as a group. Not just singling out one guy being streaky, but saying we're streaky as a group. Really good Saturday, not so good Tuesday. It's been that way most of the year. We tend to run hot and cold as a group. That's hard to handicap. That's really hard to handicap, whether or not multiple shooters that are expected to score for Bowling Green are going to be hot or cold here tonight at Miami O. Now, Miami O hasn't been the stingiest of defenses, so I would generally lean toward Bowling Green making some shots here tonight. But this team just seems to be what head coach Travis Steele said, they are unflappable. Like Miami went to UMass, no big deal. They were never really in trouble in that game. In a game that folks thought they could lose because of the first time around. So for me here, Adam, this number's been bet down. There's a lot of Bowling Green money out there right away. 8.5 down to 8. I see 7.5. So you've got a lot of underdog play with the total going up a little bit, 52 up to 53.5. Where Miami of Ohio is concerned, I generally only look at them one way because, again, since Ski Profit wanted to jump in and tag me as a quote guy, I will, again, tag him as a guy who says, if I can't trust you to get stops, I can't lay these types of points with you, this type of points with you. And laying 8 with a team that doesn't necessarily get stops, even against an opponent that's on the road, that has streaky shooting qualities to them, it's hard to do. So I would rather trust Miami of Ohio here to get over the 80.5 points. Done it 12 or 14 times. What's to say Bowling Green's going to stop them from doing it here? The pace should be there. Miami, of course, the top pace team, fastest pace team in the league. Bowling Green right there. I think they're like 6 or something. It's generally a league where a lot of these teams are high tempo. So for me, I'd look at it that way. If you want to include Bowling Green in a full game total, I could see it, but I just can't trust it basically off of what Todd Simon says. I've got a group of guys that go hot and cold together.
Yeah, I was just trying to quickly find the first meeting. I just saw the score of it. It was 93-83, so 176. Yeah. And this is one of those where kind of hard to believe that there's a 20-point difference in this game. And the reason I think that that's even more so the case after listening to you talk about it and just kind of looking at, back to the first meeting is Bowling Green. So a couple things with Bowling Green. One, for me, I always thought their strength was on the defensive end. They're very physical. They're very aggressive. But do you know how you can pretty much neutralize aggressive defense? Space the floor like Miami of Ohio does. Their floor spacing is as good as any team in the country. And you can totally neutralize a physical, aggressive defense by just simply spacing the floor and doing it as good as Miami of Ohio spaces the floor. 92.3 points per game, second in the country. 53.5% from the field, that's first in the country. 40.2% from three, that's fourth in the country. Now, where you've got a little bit of a case for the full game over, Rob, but Bowling Green actually puts the ball in the basket. They're not bad offensively. I mean, they're not gonna go out and hit a bunch of shots from the perimeter. But I do think one of the areas that you maybe can beat Miami of Ohio is at the rim. We saw UMass kind of do it in both meetings, have some success getting to the rim. Bowling Green, 48.1% from the field. That's a top 40 or top 50 mark nationally. And Bowling Green's MO is not to jack up a bunch of threes. So where the physical defense might not totally work against a team like Miami of Ohio that's going to spread you out and do it with the precision that Miami of Ohio has been doing it to teams, that like the being able to will yourself to the rim, win the one-on-one battles, take guys off the dribble, just sort of be, that toughness can show up on the offensive end. And I do think that it shows up in the form of points for Bowling Green. So I want no part of Bowling Green as an underdog here. I just think there's too many ways it can get quickly out of hand. But I think I would include them in that over. I like the full game over. I actually like that quite a bit. I think you're going to get, you're talking about 176 in the first meeting, and here you just need to get to mid 150s. So I kind of like that full game over. Rob, I'm going to give you the floor if you want to. First of all, well, have we talked about your parlay leg or not? Because if we haven't, I'll go to mine. It's up to you.
We have not.
All right, let's go to yours because I still am on the fence with something we've talked about already. So let's go to yours. You've got the floor. What game are we looking at?
All right, as I often do tell the chat here, those viewing live, I often say I'm torn between two. And here I'm going to give you the two I'm torn between, and then I'll give you the one I'm going to go with. I really like Akron first game of the night against Ball State. Numbers large, 14.5, large for a reason.
I'll tell you what. Do the other one.
Do the other game? Okay.
Yeah, do the other one. Because were you going to make a case for Akron just to destroy Ball State?
I was.
Yeah. So,
but that's
okay.
all right.
So, well,
Let me
I'm,
get.
let me do this. Let's just do this right now. You brought it up. I'm going to let you, because you have two that you like.
Yeah.
I was going to use Akron to just absolutely maul Ball State. So, but I
Good.
want you to set it up because you were talking about it. So, Akron, Ball State, let's go to that game.
All right. So let's talk about it really quick here. Couple of things with Akron. Again, I talked about resumes early. Unfortunately, or tournament resumes earlier for these mid-major teams that are really, really good, but probably can't find their way into the NCAA tournament because they just haven't beaten anybody non-conference of note. And what made it worse for Akron was the weekend where the MAC played the Sun Belt and they went down to Troy and got murdered. And so for Akron, your chances of doing anything um, are slim and none unless you win the MAC tournament. However, first place is still in their sights here. The number one seed overall. Akron's been tremendous. They've been the best defensive team in the league. They're as good in offense as you can find in this league, probably outside of Miami O. They played Miami O once. It was 76-73. A couple of things I really like here. Number one, Ball State. Let's get to the first time around. It was 87-77 Akron. They win by 10 the first time on their own home floor. It was a while ago, January 13th, about a month ago. Akron kind of played around the last 10 minutes of the game. They were up by 19 points, sort of let off the gas, et cetera, et cetera. But here they go on the road with a chance to get into a tie for first place if Miami should lose. Ball State, I think this is as much of a fade of Ball State as it is a play on Akron. And I like both ends of that. Play Akron, fade Ball State. They're so slow and so methodical and so poor shooting the basketball that, to me, this feels like a game where Akron gets out on top. Ball State doesn't find a way to get back into it because the first time around, it's what Akron let happen. I don't think they're going to let it happen this time. I think if they get up by 19 with 10 minutes left in the game, they're going to remember what happened. Ball State tried to come back, got kind of close, and it won't happen this time. They're a terrific shooting team, Akron, for what it's worth. And on the defensive end, like I said, I think they're number one defensive efficiency team inside the MAC. So it's going to be hard for Ball State, a team that goes at a snail's pace, doesn't know anything. But the one thing I was going to lean toward Akron team total here, Adam. The one thing that held me back was Ball State is so slow that they've only allowed two teams all season long inside the MAC to get over 80 points. One of them was Akron. Akron found a way to get 87 against these guys. So for me, I see full blowout here against Ball State. I think they get behind early, don't get back in it this time. That was going to be, it won't be my parlay leg, but I'm going to turn it over to you so you can further that case and we can use it as an end of our parlay.
I just figured you had two games you like this is biased. He says I hit you with the Kanye. Listen, that's how you know we just do not script this show. Like we're just doing this off the top of the head on the fly. When you brought the Akron game up, I said, well, if you've got two that you like and one of them's Akron, and I was going to use Akron, I might as well just use Akron, and that way we get a strong opinion from you on a different game. Mark Lambert says I'm a Ball State grad, got 2.5 units on Akron. Listen, if you've watched, I'm assuming Mark has watched some Ball State hoops this year, and if you watch Ball State basketball, I got to for me, this is one of the more disappointing teams in the entire country, and the reason I say that is, they got Devin Barnes, who was a guy that I really liked when he was at Tarleton State. He ended up at UTEP. I thought it was a little weird that he transferred from UTEP to Ball State. I thought that was a great grab for them. He's been better of late, but the overwhelming sort of thing that you come away with when you watch Ball State play basketball is this offense is just totally incompetent. They're just totally flawed. They can't do anything offensively. 347th in points per game. They score 66 points per game, 41.2% from the field. That's outside the top 340. They can't shoot the three. They can't rebound the basketball. What's going to happen in this game when Akron's a top 50 rebounding team? Ball State doesn't get any rebounds. I mean, there should be so many easy points here for Akron, second chance points. Yes, Ball State will dig in a little bit on the defensive end. They won't turn it over. I guess that's something that if you want to put a, sort of feather in the cap of Ball State, they take care of the basketball. They're going to slow the game down. So it's almost like Ball State is going to hold the ball, say, okay, we're not going to give it to you, and we're going to try to keep this to as few possessions as possible. But what we do with those possessions is typically nothing, right? Because that's why our field goal percentage is as low of a percentage in the country. And Rob, do you think that Akron maybe wants to take some teams out in a body bag right now because they've got to sit here and listen to Miami of Ohio, like getting paraded around? I think Akron knows they're better than Miami of Ohio. Give Akron another crack at Miami of Ohio, see who wins. Brian Power will probably be at that game because they'll be at the Rocket Arena in Cleveland, Ohio in a couple weeks, and he always goes to the MAC tournament. I think Akron's going to be I think they've got to be a little pissed off, just like in general right now. Because let's put it this way, if they win that Miami of Ohio game, no one's talking about Miami of Ohio right now. They're probably talking about Akron. And you saw them flex a little bit, 17-point win last time out against Western Michigan. I'd be shocked if it's anything less than that. And so right now, I'll just I'll even throw the minus 120 juice on this. I'll put Akron minus 120 or Akron minus 14, minus 120. Yeah, it's a little bit of a bad number. I think Akron covers all numbers here. This is going to be a 20-point Akron win. And I actually am a little bit kicking myself that I didn't just get it out earlier for clients at that 12.5. Ocho, yeah, we talked about the first meeting, Akron only winning by 10. Rob, what was, they were up pretty big though, and they kind of let Ball State hang around. Is that right?
Yeah, they're up 19 with 10 minutes left in that game.
Yeah.
And, you could see a little bit of complacency setting in that one. Ball State gets back into it. Akron really didn't have to do much to coast to the victory, but again, if they get up by 19 here, and you pointed out all their offensive flaws, I just don't know how Ball State gets behind in this one and gets back into the game or underneath the number. If in fact, like my line of thinking is if they get ahead, they're going to remember this team crawled back in last time. We're not going to allow that this time. We're just going to finish it off right now.
Yeah, and that was early in league play. I think maybe before students were back on campus. So I just think that it was you always see teams coming out of that Christmas break or like early conference play, no students. That will happen a little bit. Whereas I think it's all business right now for Akron. So yeah. And Bayou, I'm with you. And Rob made this point already. Akron team total is a fine play too. I think that probably gets there as well. Though I'd prefer to have 40 minutes of Akron being able to create space and margin, because I do think there's probably a 20-2 Akron run in this game at some point. That I feel like you're going to get some obnoxious run at some point in this game that even if it's a close game, takes this out to a 16, 17-point lead. All right, Rob Bino, we need one more leg of the parlay. Bring us home. What are we looking at?
All right, let's go down to the Big Ten. We'll give everybody what they want. A power conference game tonight, Indiana at Purdue. I know you often say just go ahead and alt the total or the spread and get the number here. The variance here is between 79.5 and 80.5. And the way I've been involved in so many half points this week, Adam, I'm going to use the consensus number of the 30 or whatever casinos that we have on Odds Logic here. The consensus number in this game is for the team total for Purdue is 79.5. It's over minus 123. So if we want to attach 25 to it, I don't care. There's a lot of places with 80.5 at even money, 80.5 even money. If you don't like to lay juice, go ahead and do that. But for me, there's been so many hooks involved this week that I'm going to go ahead and lay the 25 cents, 25 cents, and play the consensus number, which is 79.5 Purdue team total over. And I'm going to tell you why real quick here. First off, for Purdue, home revenge in Mackey. Indiana beat them the first time around. 72-67 was the final in that game. It was not that long ago either, just a couple of weeks ago. So it's fresh in their memory. And then I just have to consider the step down in class here. What Purdue just dealt with Michigan is insane as far as trying to defend. Purdue's a good defensive team that just didn't have answers for every single thing that Michigan throws at you, whether it be underneath, at the rim, mid-range, three-pointers by L.A. Cadeau. It just didn't matter. You can't guard it all. And they found that out real quick in that game. They did score points in that one against a very tough Michigan defense, but they couldn't defend them. Here against Indiana, at this point in time, Adam, there's one thing to defend, one player to defend on this team, and it's Wilkerson, who's been tremendous for IU. But I'm going to run you some numbers for the guy who's been his counterpart most of the season, Nick Dorn. Nick Dorn and head coach DeVries referred to this as Dorn being in a slump. But in the month of February, he's 4 for 28 shooting the basketball. He's in a miserable slump. Do you snap out of it all of a sudden in Mackey against Purdue with revenge? This game's been bet up. The side has been hit pretty hard from 10.5 to 11.5. Can't say that I disagree, because this is one where Indiana has had a tendency during the season to find themselves. They just got blown out by Illinois, as a matter of fact, 71-51, without Stojakovic in the game. But to me, I'm just going to isolate Purdue offense here, because I don't like the Indiana defense, what I've seen of it for most of the season. And if they miss shots and Purdue gets out and gets going here, I have to believe that Kaufman-Wren, Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, et cetera, make shots here at home. I refer back to, who did Wisconsin just play? They played somebody
Illinois.
At home where they came out and just drained threes. It was like last week. All they did was hit a bunch of threes.
Was
right
it the
away.
upset win over Illinois? Didn't they upset Illinois?
It had to have been.
Yeah, I think it was.
Whatever it was, but I'm correlating this to that. Purdue, and this isn't even an upset, but I think Purdue at home off of the Michigan game stepped down in defensive class for sure. Michigan is so tough at the rim. Michigan is so tough at the perimeter. They're like top 5 in everything, and Indiana just is not. And if Indiana's not making shots, Purdue's going to rebound and get out and go. I know they're a methodical team, but they do run. It's a controlled pace type team. To me, Adam, 79.5 just seemed way too low. I could see Purdue getting 83 plus in this game against Indiana, especially in the revenge spot. I'm going to add one more thing here to quote head coach Matt Painter. Everybody probably saw this quote because it was broadcast 100 times since he made it. But after the Michigan game, he basically said, your final test is the NCAA tournament. That's the way I look at it. Sure, you want to win these types of games. But if we would have won, we wouldn't have had a parade. If we won this game, it doesn't mean we're going to the Final Four. Translation, we're still going to play hard. Everything hasn't been decided yet. It's ahead of us. I think it starts here tonight with Purdue scoring more than 80 points or more. So give me their team total over 79.5. And we'll lay the juice with it. So, guys, if you have to use the alternate line, 79.5, over minus 25 cents. Go ahead and do that.
I only have like a couple of things to add here, but they would be, my angle in this one would be the full game total. So it's correlated exactly how you're seeing it. And it's just, for me, I think Indiana helps out enough here where you get the full game gets there as well. Should see a bounce back from Purdue. However, like if you're talking spread for a minute, Purdue is not, they have not covered many games at home this year. And I think that really speaks to, like, Purdue's one of those teams, power rating wise, has been elite all season, like way up there. My numbers show value on Purdue every single game. Like right now, like my number here is like 13.5. I'm not going to bet it because I've sort of learned at this point that Purdue, like my numbers are going to show edges on Purdue pretty much time in and time out. Now, can they turn around? Like, would I be that surprised that they turn around and like win big here because it's like they're almost like overdue to do so? No, but I don't know. I don't know that personally I want to write off Indiana's ability to stay in this game. Indiana, if they can get to the line, they're going to score points. I say like, they get reasonably good shots. Typically they get better shots at home than they do on the road. We'll see if Purdue can force them into worse shots. But again, like even if Purdue got up big in this one, I could see Indiana hanging around, hitting some threes, maybe Purdue like, can't keep them off of the rim in a blowout type game. So I think you're going to get your points either way. I'm totally with you on the team total, but if you had to bet a full game total here because you're booked in an offer team total, or that's just the way you're looking, I do think Indiana helps out and helps you get to that number. And of course, Indiana won the first meeting, put up 72 points, won 72-67. So this is an interesting one. Really could go either way on the spread at this number. So I'll just roll with you, Rob. I like the over.
Let's go. Reason why? Indiana, they're off a 51-point performance against Illinois.
Sure.
You expect Indiana to be better here as far as full game total is concerned. So we can't talk people off of that. Purdue probably angry off of allowing 90 something to Michigan as well. So defense might show up on that end. But we'll roll with Purdue over 79.5, and let's see if we can knock one of these three teamers down.
It'll be a great way to finish off the week. Of course, Rob and I will be with you on Last Call tomorrow with Kelly Stewart. So we'll be doing another three-teamer in that show. The three-teamer for today, plus 530 odds. Brian Powers going with my Siena Saints, plus 3.5. I'm going to go with the Akron Zips, minus 14, and I did attach minus 120 juice to that. And Rob Vino's going Purdue, team total, over 79.5. There's minus 125 juice attached to that. That becomes a plus 530 parlay. Rob and I have the double the firepower CBB package up on our page. That's everything for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every play we make in college basketball. I can just about guarantee that I'll have another 5%er tomorrow. I am already pretty sure of what it is. We'll see as lines start to pop, but it's going to be a great weekend. I hope you join us. And come join us on Last Call. Kelly Stewart, 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. We'll be talking games all day. See you guys later. Good luck tonight. Go Siena.